Today, to me, really represents a missed opportunity because every member of this committee, everyone in this room agrees that we need to reduce drug costs and healthcare costs writ large. But this has been a rushed, partisan process, and I think it's just a shame. We obviously have different approaches. I believe that we should have solutions that are market-based, that preserve innovation, that preserve the quality of our system. Speaker Pelosi's approach is a government-run system that will crush innovation and it'll crush research and development. I agree with my colleague, Mr. Doyle, who talked about the importance of research. And I agree with my colleague, Ms. Schakowsky, that it is important. We should know how much is really being spent on R&D. So let's look at the facts. The biopharmaceutical industry spends more on research and development than any other American industry. The National Science Foundation found that the biopharmaceutical sector accounts for the single largest share of all U.S. business R&D, representing 17% of all domestic private sector R&D. The Congressional Budget Office agreed, stating that, quote, the pharmaceutical industry is one of the most research-intensive industries in the United States. The data analytics platform Kraft recently reviewed the 57 companies in the S&P 100 that disclosed their R&D spending and calculated their average of R&D spending as a percentage of revenue. Similarly to the NSF and CBO, Kraft found that the industry by far spent the most on R&D and healthcare, with a strong focus on developing and bringing to market new drugs. In fact, the top 3 companies were all pharmaceutical companies, with Celgene, Bristol-Myers Squibb, and Merck spending 45%, 31%, and 25% of revenue on R&D respectively, and each of them significantly above the sector average of 16%. Let's compare that to the following companies' R&D spending. How about Apple? They spent 5%. GE, 5%. Dow DuPont spent 4%. Boeing spent 3%. The only sector that even came close to the amount of money biotech spends on R&D was the telecom and technology sector, which on average spent 13% of revenue. Energy companies and consumer staples companies spend far less, an average of 3% of revenue on R&D. So let's look at the real numbers. Let's talk about how much money we would be pulling out of the system. These are real cures. These are real drugs that will affect our family members and our colleagues and our constituents. We need to understand the impact of this legislation. And with that, I'd be happy to yield to anyone